My daughter attended Roxbury Preparatory Charter School 10 years ago. The trauma that I experienced, both my daughter and I experienced 10 years ago, remains today in terms of the discipline policies of charter.
Last year, my son was 5 years old and was suspended 6 times within 3 months and was banned from holiday performance for very minor incidences. He also has a disability and is a student of color, and I feel that the discipline policies need to be reviewed at charter schools. There's not very much oversight over what principals are able to do in charter schools, and that's no way for a 5-year-old student to start his career in education. He was made to feel that school wasn't for him, that he was a bad kid, and that nobody would want to be with him and spend time with him because of the way that they treated him. And we are, again, still traumatized. It's been a year and a half later, and he was bullied by the administration, and I still am dealing with the emotional backlash of having administrators bully my 5-year-old.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Amanda Saeed, Amanda Ceide, and my son is Kiernan, and he was at Mystic Valley Charter School in Malden.
And when they would call you, what would that conversation be like?
Well, usually, most of the time he would be in a room that was the size of a closet because he was being disruptive. Their discipline policy was that every child was on the same disciplinary color coding system, and when they would suspend him, he would go from green to no color.
Yes.
And as a child of color, telling him that he was no color for the day and he couldn't return to school the next day is traumatizing. And the conversation sometimes would go that you need to pick him up right now, or we'll call an ambulance, or we'll call the police, or it was very hard. Sometimes they would call and he'd be screaming in the background because he was so scared of being locked in a small area with just the principal. So.
I'm just curious, how did you get involved into this whole organization?
My name is Melissa Malika. My child also attended a charter school. My son's 5 years old. He was suspended 16 times this year. I went to the leader of that school and said, look, there's something that we need to do here. The room that Amanda is referring to in Dorchester is referred to as a DOSO. And it is a very small room that looks like a prison cell. I've never been to prison, but I've watched many TV shows, and that room is not conducive for a 5-year-old to get any learning of the situation that they've been removed from. Having your child being suspended from school at 5 years old 16 times it takes you to a place of you asking yourself constantly, what did you do wrong? What did you eat? You know, what else can you do? And I've always been an active parent, so it wasn't that I didn't have conversations with his teachers. I like to really say, though, that the teacher that my son had, his name is Malik, this teacher was she is a very, very good teacher. And while I was trying to work out something with the leader of the school, the teacher is the one that made me remember and understand that this situation might not be right for your son. But I'm going to continue to give you schoolwork for him, and I basically started teaching Malik at home. Boston Public Schools saved my son. He attends J.P. Manning, where it is a community, because at Upper Academy Holland is a neighborhood. And a neighborhood and a community are two different things. A neighborhood is how they decide what kind of schools to put in there, to try to work with the kids that are in that community, in that neighborhood. But when you become a community, that means that you're assessing the people that attend this school, you're working in the community to uplift these kids. When a child is taken out of a classroom for wiggling on a rug and they're only 5 years old, they don't understand that they really did anything wrong. So when you're taking them out the classroom and the child is acting up, they're acting up because nobody's had a conversation of, right now we're going to do this. Even if you talk to them, they're 5. They don't understand that they need to sit in militant style and walk down the hall with bubbles in their mouth. Being involved, however, means that we need to be down here today to Mr. Pfizer and let him know that we're parents that care. You're not going to keep putting schools in neighborhoods. We're community, and you're dividing us. You're dividing us because you have people thinking that charters are better. Yes. I'm going to respect those parents that have their kids in charter. If it works for them, I want it to continue to work for them. But it does not work for my son, and it doesn't work for many others. And I'm a black parent, and she is. What are you? And so you see, when we look at diversity, it doesn't work for everyone. So stop looking at it as if you're looking at the whole child, because you're not.
Right.
And so this system is a failure for us. And the kids that can't afford private schools, for me, this is privatization of education.
Yes.
And so parents that can't afford private school, and where are we going to be? It's time for people to really acknowledge that Black and Latino people are here. We're not going to go away. And you're going to service the people that live in this community correctly. We're going to hold you accountable.
Were you aware of these disciplinary policies beforehand?
They have an open house, and at the open house that I went to, there was nothing in writing, and I have all the paperwork. I went back after this storm to see, did I sign anything that said that this was okay? And I'm glad you asked that question. At the end of all of this, because what happens when you're going through this as a parent, you become you're going to put yourself into places to find out how things really work. So what I did was I would go to meetings and learn the terminology that wasn't explained to parents. This school was a turnaround school, and that's another problem. We need a task force when it comes to our turnaround schools, because how are you turning around a school in a community and you're not talking to the community, and the turnaround people that are taking over are not equipped or don't really even know the community of the children that they need to deal with? That's a big problem.
This has been going on for decades with our children. And once that trauma was over for me, I buried it until I became involved in education justice. We have a hotline now that we want parents to call in. You don't have to stand in front of a camera like me, but share your story and know that you're not alone. Know that I got calls just like you did. Know that I was told that my child wasn't doing well, just like you did. Know that some children don't make this color code, and they feel a sense of hopelessness to not be able to make a color. Never mind how well they're doing in other areas. Parents, tell your story. Share your story. Please. Let people know that charter schools are not the best thing. You may not necessarily have hit the lottery when you get this information. Check out your school. Check out the discipline policies and listen to your child. Yes. Listen to the stories that your daughter or your son tells you when they come home.
What do you hope the hotline accomplishes?
Again, hope, by the information being released, we know that this is going to bring change, because when people are educated and given honest information, then they can make a critical and a healthy decision for their child. So the hotline is going to support parents like myself and Amanda and Marlena to not feel alone, because see, when you don't respect culture, what people don't understand is a lot of times people are not going to report, because in a lot of different cultures, when your kid doesn't make it into school, you're an embarrassment to your family. You're not an embarrassment. The school is the embarrassment. Their antecedent is children of color and ELL. And this information is going to help us do better as a whole and become a community, and saying that this is what we're not going to allow in our education system. And again, lifting this cap is going to be detrimental to us.
Or is the information going to be used for something? Are parents going to be offered advice if they call in? What happens?
So again, when the parent calls in, number one, the most important thing is that they're receiving support around what they've experienced. So they'll be able to speak with other organizers and other parents. Number two, Boston Education Justice Alliance and Major working on a lot of different components to wrap this thing around. So today, one of the things we're doing, we're here. You're here with us. So one of the movements is to speak with the Board of Education, let them know what they like. So when you ask what this number is going to do, it's doing what we're doing today, coming together, standing up and saying, listen, you're not going to make any more decisions without people that you serve, whether it's Black, Latino, ELL. We're going to be in the room. We're demanding to be in the space, and we're going to start coming together, and we're going to take our public schools back because you're not treating us fair. You don't care about everybody. And this is not a system where you're going to keep doing what you're doing. You're dividing. You're not building us up. So calling this number, and I'm sorry, Amanda, calling this number is a step in toward support for everybody.
Everyone. Is this hotline just a campaign thing, or will it exist even beyond the November election?
Well, again, the whole thing is a lot of people will think that you have a campaign. Again, we're parents. We're not idiots. And when I say that, I mean that with the most respect. We're not going to do anything else, whether it's a campaign or anything else, without having something to stand on in the end. So yes, we support the campaign of saving our public schools, but we're also working to have something sustainable, quality afterwards. So this is not just about the campaign. The campaign actually helps us to be able to go into spaces and get the word out. Yeah. But we know that it's time for parents to come together, communities to come together and stand up and have some change afterwards.
The Boston Education Justice Alliance is a coalition. It is parents, teachers, students, active community members who are dedicated to education justice. The campaign to keep the cap on charter schools is just a small piece of getting education justice for public schools and charter schools. So we are building a network of informed parents and students who can talk about and fight for education justice as a unit, as a community. Campaign is one small piece of it.
Yes, it is. And
once this campaign is over in November, we will have a community of informed parents who will all stand together and fight together for improved public schools.